So if you're like me, you're probably using ChatGPT every single day. And when 5.5 dropped, you likely hit that upgrade button expecting a big leap forward, right? But here's the thing. A surprising truth is bubbling up from hundreds, if not thousands of user reports. The smartest model ever might actually be getting some answers wrong more often than good old version 5.4. So what on earth is going on? Let's break down what was promised versus what we're actually getting.
Okay, so picture this. It's April 23rd, 2026. OpenAI rolls out GPT 5.5. The marketing is slick, right? They're calling it their smartest, safest, and most intuitive model yet. And the killer feature? Zero increase in latency. But then, reality hits. Within just a few hours, the internet starts telling a very different story. We're talking widespread complaints about inaccuracy, a weirdly patronizing tone, and, you guessed it, a ton of lag. This is the huge gap between the promise and the reality, and it's exactly what we're diving into today.
And, this wasn't just a few random people complaining online. The backlash was real, and it really crystallized around 5 specific, recurring issues. We're going to unpack every single one to figure out why this launch got so controversial.
First up, and this one is probably the biggest shock for everyone, accuracy. I mean, you'd expect a smarter model to be, well, smarter. But what early testers started noticing was this strange, lazy search behavior, where instead of actually working through a problem, the model just seems to guess. Not exactly what you want from the smartest model ever.
And this is where it gets really nuts. This quote puts some hard numbers on the problem. An independent analysis found that even though 5.5 crushes public benchmarks, it has a massive hallucination issue. And here's the really scary part. It's not just wrong, it's confidently wrong. A staggering 86% of the time it's uncertain, it just makes something up and serves it to you as fact. That's a dangerous combination for anyone relying on this for serious work.
This chart really drives the point home. Take a look. Only 57% accurate in this test, and that huge chunk of inaccurate answers, almost all of them were complete fabrications. The leading theory right now is that the new thinking mode is just being way too conservative. It's hedging its bets instead of committing to a real answer.
Okay, so the second major complaint is less about the technical side of things and more about how the AI talks to you. Users are heavily criticizing its new conversational style, and there's this feeling that new restrictions have been quietly slipped in.
Man, this quote from a Reddit user just perfectly captures the frustration. People feel like the model is constantly making assumptions, trying to predict their emotions, and, this is a big one, completely ignoring the custom instructions they've so carefully set up. When your AI starts overriding your explicit rules, that trust breaks down, and it breaks down fast.
But to be fair, the feedback here is pretty nuanced. While tons of people are calling out these new guardrails for making the experience feel colder, some users are actually saying that 5.5 is less argumentative and even kinder than the old version. So it really seems like your experience depends heavily on what you're using it for.
This leads us right to the next complaint, which feels like another broken promise: speed. OpenAI's big headline claim was no increase in latency. Sounds great, right? Except that's just not what users are experiencing at all. There are widespread reports of input lag while typing and really extreme output lag in longer chats.
And it's not just about raw speed. Users are also noticing a huge problem with its context memory. As this user points out, the model can't even seem to remember what you talked about 2 prompts ago. That makes trying to have a complex, multi-step conversation basically impossible. Now, some of this could just be server overload, but it's a major pain point either way. All right, now for the one that hits you right in the wallet. A huge part of this backlash is centered on the new pricing structure, and it's affecting everyone from developers using the API to everyday pro subscribers. So here's the breakdown. For developers, the API rates are roughly double the cost of 5.4. That actually makes it more expensive than key competitors like Anthropic's Claude. And for consumers, they introduce new pro tiers that go all the way up to $200 a month. But longtime subscribers are furious because that pricey plan limits your outputs to about 1,000 words, making it feel almost unusable for what you're paying.
This last complaint, it's less about the tech and more about the vibe. User trust in OpenAI's direction seems to be fracturing, and the timing of this launch really couldn't have been worse.
I mean, just think about it. The GPT 5.5 launch happened right alongside high-profile lawsuits, reports of military contracts, and the CEO himself admitting the last major rollout was botched. So of course, users are connecting the dots. They're asking if these updates are really for them or if they're just for the bottom line. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition.
Okay, I know that was a lot of problems, but it's not all bad news.
There are some simple, really effective workarounds that can fix most of these issues and help you get back in the driver's seat.
And here they are, laid out nice and clear. To fix that weird tone, just go into your custom instructions and add something like, be straightforward and direct. To fix the accuracy, break your complex questions into smaller, sequential steps. To fix the speed, use instant mode for quick lookups. And to fix the cost, just stick with the cheaper GPT 5.4 for your everyday tasks. It's all about matching the model to the job.
Now, let's just zoom out for a second, because the timeline here really tells you a lot about why this whole launch has felt so chaotic and rushed.
Look at this rapid-fire sequence of events. A major outage hits on April 20th. Just 3 days later, GPT 5.5 launches. And by the 25th, the community backlash is already in full swing. With competitors breathing down their neck, it really seems like the pressure to ship fast was real, and it shows.
So, after all that, we have to ask the big question on everyone's mind. Is GPT 5.5 a flop? And is it time to switch back?
Honestly, no, it's not a flop. The truth is way more nuanced. The real takeaway is this. GPT 5.5 is actually breaking new ground in things like complex coding and deep analysis. You just have to use it strategically for those heavy lifting tasks. But for casual chats, quick lookups, or any budget-sensitive work, the reliable GPT 5.4 is still your best bet.
This whole episode really leaves us with a critical question for the future. Are these launch issues just temporary growing pains that'll get fixed with user feedback? Or are we seeing a new reality of AI development, where the big push for progress comes at the cost of day-to-day usability? That's something we're all going to be watching very closely.